As the world's first 14-looping roller coaster, the Smiler at Alton Towers was a ride destined for greatness. But when one of its cars, fully loaded with passengers, came hurtling towards an empty car sitting idly on the tracks on the 2nd of June 2015, its journey through the history books was to take the darkest of turns. This is the story of one of the worst theme park accidents in UK history, a hellish cocktail of miscommunication, safety management and human decision making, resulting in permanent life-changing injuries for several passengers on board. Let's take a closer look at what exactly went wrong with the Smiler. Hello and welcome back to iSafe's YouTube channel. If you're a regular visitor to the channel, you'll know we do lots of health and safety content with a tongue-in-cheek tone and basically me making a twat out of myself on camera. Today we're going to do something a little bit different though. We're going to do a series on really bad accidents that have happened not just in the UK but around the world, and we're going to unpick them, we're going to learn about them together, and we're going to try and see if we can get any information out of them that can improve workplace safety in his own workplaces. So today's video is all about the Smiler accident, which I remember it was a really bad accident. I don't know the facts and the details. I've never read this script before, so I'm going to read it together, we're going to learn about it together, and that's what we're going to do. When the Smiler opened in 2013, it was billed as the ultimate thrill ride, with 14 inversions, speeds of 53 miles per hour, and a world record-breaking design that drew headlines worldwide. This ride was legit, and as expected, it was popular from the very start. But there were problems early on. Even before it officially opened, during a press preview, the ride stalled on a vertical lift section, leaving journalists and celebrities stranded for hours while rescue crews worked to free them. That accident alone pushed back the opening day twice. Then, in July 2013, just a few weeks into its operation, guests noticed a bolt falling from one of its joints in the track, which caused a small gap to appear between two sections of track. In that same month, the ride was closed for 5 days after cracks were found around the base of one of the ride supports. I mean, I'm not massively familiar with fairground or theme park ride operations, but I'm pretty confident that all this has to be reported to the HSE under RIDDOR. So I'm wondering, A, what they did to rectify these faults and to stop them happening again, and B, whether the HSE actually came out and investigated this, whether that led to any prosecutions or anything like that, but maybe we'll find out. Then, in November 2013, 4 people suffered minor injuries when they were struck by a guide wheel that detached from the chain guide as the train ascended in a vertical incline. Pretty alarming stuff, no shit. I mean, the HSE must have come out and investigated this at the very least. It was a sunny day and the Smiler had been running smoothly all morning, but conditions were far from perfect. Winds had reached 46 miles per hour, which exceeded the 34 mile per hour limit stipulated by the operational guidelines. Never, no matter what piece of equipment you're using, go against the operational guidelines. In fact, one of the other rides at the park had already been closed because of wind. They did the right thing. At around 1 PM, a warning light indicated a fault with the Smiler. The ride was temporarily closed while engineers investigated. Up to this point, there had been 4 cars in operation on the ride. Staff had been just about to add a 5th car to increase the throughput of riders, as is standard practice on busy days at the theme park. This is where things got messy. As the engineers were addressing the fault, the ride operators added a 5th car to the track. The engineers weren't aware of this. Once the issue seemed resolved, an empty test car was dispatched, which because of strong gusts of wind failed to complete the loop and stalled mid-ride. The staff didn't realise this had happened. Believing the test car had completed its circuit, engineers thought the track was clear. The ride reopened and a carriage full of passengers was sent out. The Smiler's automatic safety system correctly detected the stalled train ahead and halted the moving one. And here's where everything got unravelled. It just seems like nobody's communicating here. There's no coordination between the engineers and the operators, and that is just a recipe for disaster. You know, some know things are going off, others don't, you know, and vice versa. Bad. An engineer convinced there were only 4 cars in play rather than 5 assumed the system's warning was a glitch. Never assume a warning's a glitch. We've all had it where fire alarms or little buzzers that seem annoying have gone off, but they are there for a very good reason. They're there to indicate that there's a hazard, that there's an issue, whether it be a fire or something like this. At least go out and check to see that there isn't an issue. Is a lesson that we can all learn from that. With a colleague, he overrode the safety computer and released the train. The carriage continued on its way to disaster. At around 2 p.m, the fully loaded carriage slammed into the empty stalled one at 53 miles an hour. The impact was devastating, with the front row passengers absorbing the full force. 17-year-old Lee Washington and 19-year-old Vicky Bark both suffered life-changing injuries, including leg amputation. Others sustained multiple fractures, lacerations and psychological trauma. Passengers remained trapped for over 4 hours as rescue workers worked tirelessly to free them from the mangled wreckage. I mean, why did it take 4 hours? Is one of the questions that I've got on that. You know, there's loads of bits of regulation, like work at height regulations and confined spaces regulations that stipulate that you need to have a rescue plan, and that needs to be done in a timely manner. Like for work at height, it's like 8 minutes that you need to be able to get somebody down. I understand it's a bit more complicated with a roller coaster, but surely they could have had a rescue plan in place which would have sped up that 4 hours and maybe mitigated some of the severity of the accidents. The Health and Safety Executive launched a full investigation. What they found was not a technical glitch nor a mechanical defect. It was human error, magnified by gaps in training and communication. Staff had been confused about how many cars were on the track, and critically, they had the authority to override systems designed to prevent collisions. In 2016, Merlin Attractions, the parent company of Alton Towers, pleaded guilty under the Health and Safety at Work Act. The company was fined £5 million, which is a big boy fine, by the way. Like, it's rare you see a fine that high. One of the largest penalties in UK leisure history. Yeah, I'd say one of the bigger fines in any industry in history, I would say. To their credit, Merlin fully cooperated with the investigation and accepted complete responsibility for the tragedy. Yeah, I remember actually seeing this on the news and the bigwigs at Alton Towers stepping out and owning up to their mistakes and their issues, which is a massive baller move, and especially when you're client facing like Alton Towers is. You know, the public want to know that you're doing something about an accident like this and you're taking it seriously and not just hiding behind solicitors and worrying about big fines. So yeah, full respect for Merlin and Alton Towers on that one. For the victims, life was changed forever. Lee and Vicky have both spoken bravely about their recoveries, the surgeries, the psychological toll, and the fight to rebuild their lives. For Merlin and Alton Towers, the reputational damage was enormous. Visitor numbers plummeted. The Smiler itself was closed for 8 months before reopening with stricter safety measures, including additional CCTV cameras, manual reset buttons on the track, wind speed monitors, visual track inspections, and new protocols requiring senior staff to authorise manual overrides for safety systems. All very sensible, that. In a strange twist of fate, the Smiler is probably now one of the safest rides in the world. But this is of small comfort to anyone involved, least of all the victims. The shadow of the accident remains and will forever hang over the Smiler. The best anyone can do is learn lessons from the Smiler accident. Only then can theme parks ensure nothing like the Smiler accident ever happens again. Wow. So, Yeah, lots of lessons we can learn from that. I mean, the human factor element and the communication is by far the biggest bit. There were two teams there who just weren't talking to each other. We see this a lot in industry, not to take it too far away from the topic, but on construction sites where there are two different companies who are working, who don't know what each other are doing and could perhaps be affecting each other, and similarly in manufacturing and that kind of thing, maintenance teams working close with operational teams and not knowing what each other's doing. These are the roots of a lot of accidents. So communication's key. Having daily meetings and regular contact with other people in your area is essential for a safe working environment. I think Alton Towers did all the right things with additional visual monitoring. So if those safety alarms do go off, they can be checked. I think all equipment, regardless of what you're using, should be subject to at least a daily check to make sure there's nothing wrong, or a check every time you change something on there, changing the calibration, changing what products you're putting through it. Do a pre-use check before you fire that machine up. It would have stopped that collision that's happened in this video. It's essential. And also having those processes in place, making sure that it's not just down to a single person to override safety mechanisms. Like I said during the video, we've all had an alarm go off and gone beep, beep, beep and stop that alarm. It's so important that you go and check that there isn't a hazard there, that you go and visually check it to make sure that there's not an emerging issue, whether it be a fire or a broken machine or something that's going to present a critical safety fault. So lots we can learn from that. I hope you enjoyed that one. I enjoyed this format, I'm not going to lie. As I say, we're going to be doing this as a bit of a series. The next one's going to be on Rust, the Alec Baldwin shooting somebody by accident. So, yeah, seems morose to say. I'm looking forward to that, but it should be quite interesting. If you like this format, leave us a comment, leave us a like. Any feedback, please let us know what you thought and whether we should do some more of that. But hopefully see you on the next one. Bye bye.